Have you ever noticed those people who simply don't post photos on social media, while the entire world seems obsessed with capturing every second of life, sharing every meal, every trip, every supposedly perfect moment? There's a special group of individuals who choose digital silence. And you know what? That choice reveals something extraordinary about human psychology, something the ancient Stoic philosophers understood more than 2,000 years ago. What I'm about to share in this video might completely change the way you see social media, and more importantly, the way you see yourself. And the final insight, the one I'm saving for the end, is so powerful it can transform your relationship with external validation forever. Think about it. We live in an era where not being active on social media is almost treated like an anomaly. People question it, judge it, even get suspicious. Why doesn't that person post anything? Are they hiding something? Do they not have an interesting life? Are they antisocial? But what if I told you that the people who don't share their photos publicly might actually be the most psychologically balanced among us? What if this apparent invisibility is a sign of deep inner wisdom? Before we go on, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button right now. This content is going to challenge everything you think about validation, identity, and self-awareness. And if you're already enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to hit the like button too. It helps me keep bringing powerful content your way. Let's start by understanding what really goes on in the mind of someone who avoids posting photos on social media. I'm not talking about people who don't have access to technology or older adults who never adapted to the digital world. I'm talking about perfectly capable individuals, often young, connected and fully aware, who make a conscious choice not to put their image out there. According to modern psychology and Stoic principles, this choice is deeply tied to something called an internal locus of control. So what is an internal locus of control? It means a person bases their self-esteem, their decisions, and their sense of worth on factors they control, not on outside approval. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations something that fits this idea perfectly. He said that the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts, not the opinions of others. People who don't post photos have internalized this wisdom, whether they realize it or not. While most people chase validation through likes, comments, and views, those who choose visual silence have already moved beyond that need. They don't require the online world to confirm that their life is worthwhile, that they're attractive, interesting, or worthy of attention. This kind of psychological independence is rare and incredibly valuable in our hyper-connected society. But there's more. Recent studies in social psychology show that the constant need to post and be validated is directly linked to higher levels of anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. Juntuenge, a psychology professor at San Diego State University, found in her research a clear correlation between time spent seeking validation on social media and an increase in mental health issues, especially among young people. People who don't post photos automatically protect themselves from that vicious cycle. Think about the wisdom of Epictetus, another great Stoic. He taught that there are things within our control and things outside our control. Within our control are our opinions, our desires, our aversions, our actions. Outside our control is everything else, including what other people think of us. When you post a photo on social media, you are essentially handing your emotional well-being over to something completely outside your control. You become dependent on the reactions of others. How many likes will I get? Will people comment? Will they think I look good? Will they judge me? It's a place of deep psychological vulnerability. People who don't share their images escape this trap. They keep their inner peace intact because they never place their sense of worth in the hands of strangers on the internet. And here's what's interesting. This doesn't mean they're insecure or have low self-esteem. Quite the opposite. Research indicates that true confidence doesn't need a stage. The constant need to prove something, to show your life is exciting, to document every special moment, often reveals insecurity disguised as extroversion. Seneca, the third major Stoic thinker, warned us about the dangers of living for others. He said we spend our entire lives worrying about what other people think, only to realize, when it's too late, that we should have been living for ourselves. People who don't post photos already understand this lesson. They live their moments fully, without the constant interruption of thinking about how it will look online, what filter to use, or which caption will have the most impact. Have you ever thought about how many genuine moments you've missed because you were worried about capturing them perfectly for Instagram? How many sunsets you didn't really see because you were looking through your phone screen? How many deep conversations you've paused just to take a selfie? People who avoid social media are actually living more intensely, more present, more connected with the world around them. There's also a remarkable sense of psychological freedom in this choice. When you don't have a digital persona to maintain, you're free to be authentic, to change, to grow, to evolve, without needing to justify anything to anyone. You don't have to worry about whether your online image matches who you really are. You don't have to manage other people's expectations. That kind of freedom is transformative. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever felt that pressure to post something just because it's been a while since your last post? Have you ever chosen an experience not for what it meant to you, but for how it would look on your social media? If your answer is yes, you're not alone. But what if there were another way to live? Let's dive deeper into the minds of the people who choose digital invisibility. And what I'm about to reveal may truly surprise you. There's a fascinating psychological trait that most of these individuals share, something psychologists call a high tolerance for ambiguity. Let me explain what that means and why it matters. Most people feel an urgent need to be understood, categorized, defined by others. We want people to know who we are, what we do, what we like, where we are. That's why we post. It's a way of controlling the narrative about ourselves. But people who don't share photos on social media operate differently. They're comfortable with the fact that others don't know exactly who they are. And that, my friend, is a psychological superpower. Marcus Aurelius taught that we should be like the rock against which the waves continuously crash. The rock stands firm, and the waters around it eventually calm. People who avoid social media are that rock. They aren't shaken by the uncertainty of what others think of them. They don't need to shape outside perceptions because their identity doesn't depend on it. Here's something few people talk about. Constant exposure on social media creates a fragmented version of ourselves. You become a product, a personal brand that needs to be managed. Every post becomes a strategic decision. Every photo goes through a filter, literally and metaphorically. And in the end, you create a character who may be far removed from who you truly are. People who don't post reject that theater. They refuse to turn themselves into digital merchandise. Sherry Turkle, a psychologist and professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, has written extensively about how social media is reshaping our identity. She found that the more time we spend crafting our online persona, the further we drift from our authentic self. We start living for the audience, not for ourselves. Every experience becomes filtered through the question, will this make a good post? It's a modern form of alienation where we become strangers to ourselves. And there's more. People who don't post photos often have a deeper understanding of the Stoic concept of memento mori, the reminder that we are mortal. It may sound dark at first, but this awareness of life's finitude is incredibly liberating. When you truly internalize that your time is limited, you stop wasting it chasing superficial validation. You begin to ask, do I really want to spend my remaining days on Earth worrying about my follower count? Seneca wrote powerful letters about the use of time. He said the issue isn't that we have too little time, but that we waste much of it. People who avoid social media understand this instinctively. They choose not to squander their precious hours on platforms designed to be addictive, to drain attention, to turn real moments into consumable content. Another fascinating aspect is their relationship with privacy. In an era where privacy is treated almost as something suspicious, where everyone shares everything, choosing to keep your life private is a radical act. But think about it. Why should we feel the need to broadcast our lives to thousands of people we barely know? When did that become the norm? The Stoics deeply valued inner life. Marcus Aurelius spent years writing his meditations, never intending to publish them. They were private reflections for his own growth. He was the emperor of Rome. He could have had all the attention in the world, yet he chose to cultivate a rich inner life away from the spotlight. People who don't post photos are walking that same path. They understand that true growth, true transformation happens in silence, in private reflection, not on the public stage of social media. If you're enjoying this content so far, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow and brings these reflections to more people who need to hear them. And keep watching, because I still have powerful insights to share with you. Now let's talk about something the social media industry doesn't want you to know. There's a reason these platforms are engineered to be addictive. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. There's science behind it. Notifications, likes, comments, everything is designed to release dopamine in your brain, creating a reward cycle that keeps you coming back. It's literally the same mechanism used in casino slot machines. Tristan Harris, former design ethicist at Google, became one of the industry's most vocal critics after seeing from the inside how these platforms are built. He revealed that every feature is crafted to maximize the time you spend scrolling, comparing your life to others, seeking that next hit of validation. People who don't post photos, whether consciously or not, have escaped this trap. They're not stuck in this dependency cycle. Epictetus taught about the difference between external freedom and internal freedom. You can be physically chained and still be free internally if your mind is under your control. But you can also be physically free and still be a slave to your desires, your compulsions, the opinions of others. How many people today are slaves to social media without even realizing it? How many can't go a single day without checking how many likes they received, updating their profile, or seeing what everyone else is doing? The absence of social media isn't avoidance, it's liberation. It's a conscious decision not to hand over control of your mind, your time, your inner peace to algorithms built to exploit your psychological vulnerabilities. And here's something interesting. The happiest, most fulfilled people I know are rarely the ones with perfect profiles and thousands of followers. They're the ones who live fully offline, who cultivate real, deep relationships, not superficial connections mediated through screens. Now let's dig even deeper into the psychology behind these people, and this might hit you harder than you expect. There's a direct correlation between staying off social media and what psychologists call emotional resilience. Let me explain why this happens and how you can use this knowledge to transform your own life. When you're constantly exposed on social media, you're constantly vulnerable. Vulnerable to criticism, to comparison, to judgment. Every picture you post is an open door for the world to comment on your appearance, your choices, your life. And no matter how tough you think you are, it gets to you. Neurological studies show that online criticism activates the same areas of the brain as physical pain. Your brain can't tell the difference between digital rejection and real rejection. People who don't post photos have built a psychological fortress around themselves. They're not under fire all the time. They don't wake up wondering what people thought about what they posted yesterday. They don't go to sleep analyzing why that picture didn't get as many likes as they hoped. That mental peace is priceless. It's what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel, a place inside you that no one can invade or disturb. And here's something that might sound controversial, but it needs to be said. Social media culture promotes narcissism. I'm not saying everyone who posts is a narcissist, but the structure of these platforms encourages narcissistic behaviors, constant selfies, the need to be the center of attention, the obsession with your own image, the endless chase for admiration. That's not healthy. And the ironic part, the more you chase external validation, the less internal validation you have. The psychologist Christopher Lasch wrote a book in the 1970s called The Culture of Narcissism, decades before social media existed, and his observations are even more relevant today. He argued that modern society was creating individuals increasingly obsessed with themselves and decreasingly capable of forming authentic connections with others. Social media has amplified this exponentially. People who avoid posting resist this culture. They don't feed the collective narcissism. They understand that their lives don't need to be a constant show, that existing doesn't require an audience, that living well is far more important than looking like you're living well. And that distinction is crucial. How many people do you know who seem to have perfect lives online but are miserable in reality? Seneca had a powerful concept called otium, time dedicated to personal growth, reflection, study, and the cultivation of wisdom. He contrasted it with negotium, time consumed by public obligations and business. Social media is the opposite of otium. It's a form of constant negotium, where you're always performing, always working to maintain an image, always concerned with how others see you. People who don't post have reclaimed their otium. They have the time and mental space for what truly matters. Let me ask you something directly. How many hours a week do you spend on social media? Now imagine investing that same time reading, learning a new skill, having deep conversations with people you love, meditating, strengthening your body. How different would your life be? Think about that seriously. Share your reflection in the comments. There's also a spiritual dimension to this choice that rarely gets discussed. In nearly every spiritual and philosophical tradition, humility is considered a core virtue, not the fake humility of posting an accomplishment and pretending it's no big deal, but the real humility of not needing the world to know about your accomplishments, doing good without announcing it, being excellent without needing an audience. Jesus Christ taught that when you give to the needy, your left hand shouldn't know what your right hand is doing. Buddha spoke about detachment from ego and vanity. Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching that those who know don't speak, and those who speak don't know. All these traditions converge on the same point. True wisdom, true strength, doesn't require external recognition. People who don't post photos, even without following any particular spiritual tradition, have internalized this wisdom. They live their lives without needing to prove anything. And paradoxically, these are often the people who lead the richest, most interesting, most authentic lives, because they live to live, not to document. Epictetus reminded us that we are actors in a play written by someone else. Our job is to perform the role we've been given well, whether it's big or small, wealthy or modest, famous or unknown. But the modern obsession with social media has inverted this. Now everyone wants to be the star, everyone wants the lead role, everyone wants to be seen, and in this race for attention, we've lost the ability to simply play our part with dignity and excellence, regardless of an audience. Let me share something that might change your perspective. You know what the biggest irony of social media is? The people who post the most are often the ones with the least genuine confidence. The need for constant validation reveals insecurity, not confidence. It's as if they need the entire world to repeatedly confirm that they matter. People who don't post already know their worth. They don't need external confirmation because their self-esteem comes from within. Psychologist Albert Bandura developed the concept of self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to succeed in specific situations. People with high self-efficacy don't need external approval because they trust their own judgment. Those who stay away from social media often have high self-efficacy. They trust themselves more than strangers on the internet. And there's one more crucial element: authenticity. When you're not constantly curating your online image, You're forced to be authentic. There's no persona to maintain, no illusion to protect. You are who you are, for better or for worse, and that authenticity is magnetic. Real people, authentic people, have a presence that can't be replicated online. They're interesting not because they post interesting things, but because they live interesting lives. Let's talk about something most people are too afraid to address openly: the relationship between social media and envy. And this might make you rethink everything you believe about sharing your life online, because what I'm about to reveal exposes one of the darkest sides of modern human psychology. More than 2,000 years ago, Aristotle identified envy as one of the most destructive emotions a human being can feel. He described it as the pain experienced in the face of someone else's good fortune. And guess what fuels social media more than anything else? Exactly. Envy, both from those who post and those who watch. Think about it. When you post photos of your dream vacation, your new car, your dinner at an expensive restaurant, your perfectly sculpted body, what feeling are you consciously or unconsciously trying to provoke in others? Admiration, sure, but also envy. You want people to look at your life and think, wow, I wish that were me. And that's toxic for you and for everyone watching. People who choose not to post have freed themselves from this poisonous dynamic. They're not trying to make anyone feel jealous. They're not measuring their worth by their ability to make others feel inferior. And at the same time, they protect themselves from feeling envy toward other people's posts. Because let's be honest, how many times have you scrolled through your feed and felt that sting of inadequacy when confronted with someone else's seemingly perfect life? Psychologist Jan Crusius from the University of Cologne has conducted extensive research on envy and social media. He found that the more time people spend online, the more envy they experience, and that envy turns into chronic dissatisfaction with their own lives. It's a vicious cycle. You see something that makes you feel bad, so you post something to make others feel the same, and the cycle continues, leaving everyone more miserable in the process. Marcus Aurelius warned us about the futility of comparing our lives to others. He said that every person has their own path, their own challenges, their own victories. Comparison is the fastest route to unhappiness, and social media is a comparison machine. It has transformed what used to be a localized and limited phenomenon into something global and constant. Now think about this. The people you see posting their perfect lives are only showing a highly edited version of reality. No one posts the argument with their partner, the bill they couldn't pay, the overwhelming loneliness, the insecurity that hits at 3 in the morning. You're comparing your full, unfiltered life to the polished highlight reel of someone else's, and that's a competition you can never win. People who avoid that game are infinitely wiser. They understand that real life doesn't fit into a filtered photo, that happiness isn't Instagrammable, that the most meaningful moments, the deepest connections, the most important achievements often happen off-camera, in silence, in intimacy, in private. Seneca wrote magnificently about the importance of living according to your own standards, not those imposed by society. He said that most people live lives that aren't truly theirs, following paths others laid out, pursuing goals that aren't their own. Social media has amplified this dramatically. Now, you're not just living according to social norms, you're living according to algorithmic norms, designed to maximize engagement, not your happiness. And here's a brutal truth that needs to be said. The more you post, the less you live. Every moment you stop to take the perfect picture is a moment you're not actually experiencing. Every second spent picking filters, writing captions, checking reactions is a second stolen from your real life. People who don't post reclaim these moments. They live in real time, not screen time. Let me share something with you. There's a psychological phenomenon called the paradox of choice, studied by psychologist Barry Schwartz. He found that the more options we have, the more anxious and dissatisfied we become. Social media has created a similar paradox with identity. You have infinite possibilities for how to present yourself, endless versions of yourself you can project. And this identity overload is leaving people lost, unsure of who they really are. People who don't post pictures escape this paradox. They don't have to decide which version of themselves to show today. They simply are. And there is a deep freedom in that, a clarity and integrity that comes from not being split between your real self and your digital selves. Epictetus taught about the importance of internal coherence. He said we should be the same person in public and in private, that our virtue should be consistent regardless of who's watching. But social media creates a split. You become one person online and another offline, and this split is psychologically devastating. It's like living two parallel lives, and eventually you forget which one is real. Let me ask you a potentially uncomfortable question. Have you ever lied on social media? Not an explicit lie, but a lie by omission. Have you ever posted a smiling photo when you were sad? Shared a moment that looked happy but wasn't? Created a narrative about your life that didn't reflect your reality? If you said yes, you're not alone. Everyone does it, but it comes at a cost. The cost is your authenticity, your integrity, your inner peace. People who opt out of this collective theater keep their integrity intact. They don't have to lie, not even by omission. They don't have to hide their imperfections because they're not trying to impress anyone. And paradoxically, that brutal honesty with themselves makes them stronger, more resilient, more whole. Michel Foucault developed the concept of technologies of the self, the practices through which we construct our identity. Social media is a new technology of the self, but one that often builds false, fragmented, performative selves. People who reject this technology are choosing older, deeper forms of identity building, through reflection, through action, through character demonstrated over time, not through fleeting posts. Now let's dive into the deeper, transformative dimension of this topic. What I'm about to reveal can quite literally shift the direction of your life. We're going to talk about something the Stoics considered the highest virtue, practical wisdom, what they called prudence. And people who choose not to post photos on social media embody this wisdom in ways most people never even notice. In ancient philosophy, there were three types of knowledge: theoretical knowledge, technical knowledge, and practical knowledge. Practical knowledge, the wisdom of living well, was considered the most important. And here's the crucial insight. People who avoid social media demonstrate practical wisdom because they understand something fundamental about human nature and about what truly matters in life. Marcus Aurelius spent his life as emperor of Rome, facing wars, betrayal, political crises. He had all the power in the world, yet in his meditations he wrote about the importance of maintaining inner peace regardless of external circumstances. He knew that true victory doesn't come from conquering land or accumulating wealth, but from conquering oneself. And people who choose digital invisibility have already conquered something most haven't even begun to fight: their need for approval. Think about this. We live in a society that tells you constantly that you need to be seen, recognized, validated. That your value is tied to how many people know your name, like your photos, follow your life. It's a lie. A massive lie, repeated so often it became truth for millions. But it's still a lie. The most important people in your life, the ones who genuinely matter, can probably be counted on one hand. Your parents, your children, your partner, a few real friends. These people actually know you. They love or respect you not because of a picture, but because of who you are when things get difficult, in your ethical choices, in how you treat others when no one is watching. Psychologist Robin Dunbar developed what became known as Dunbar's number, which suggests humans can maintain meaningful relationships with roughly 150 people. But on social media, people have thousands of friends or followers. Are those real relationships? No. They're shallow connections that create the illusion of community without the substance of genuine human bonds. People who don't post photos understand this intuitively. They prefer to cultivate a few deep relationships rather than dozens of surface-level ones. They invest time and energy in people who truly matter, not an anonymous audience that will forget their post in 5 minutes. That's practical wisdom in action. Seneca warned us about the difference between being busy and being productive. He said many people confuse frantic activity with purpose. Social media is the perfect example. You can spend hours posting, commenting, liking, and at the end of the day, what have you actually accomplished? Nothing of substance, nothing that lasts. People who avoid that cycle redirect their energy toward things that actually build a meaningful life. And here's something that contradicts everything modern culture preaches. You don't need to be extraordinary. You don't need a life worthy of being posted online. Most people throughout human history lived ordinary lives, working, loving, raising children, contributing to their communities in small but meaningful ways. And those lives were rich, complete, dignified, even without an audience. The modern obsession with being special, standing out, being remarkable is actually a source of suffering, because the math is simple. Not everyone can be extraordinary. If everyone is special, no one is. And the desperate pursuit of this supposed exceptionalism is making people miserable, because most will inevitably fail at this impossible quest. People who don't post photos often have already made peace with their own ordinariness. And that's not resignation, it's liberation. It's the realization that you can have a magnificent, meaningful life without ever being famous, without being recognized by strangers, without ever going viral. In a culture obsessed with fame and recognition, that acceptance is revolutionary. Epictetus was a slave who became one of the greatest philosophers in history. He had no power, no wealth, no social status, but he had something far more valuable: inner freedom. He taught that true freedom doesn't come from your external circumstances, but from how you respond to those circumstances. People who refuse to be enslaved by social media practice that freedom every single day. Let me offer a perspective that may be difficult to accept at first. Maybe the problem isn't social media itself, but how we use it. Maybe it is possible to use these platforms in a healthy way, but doing so requires a level of discipline and self-awareness that most people simply don't have. It's like asking an alcoholic to drink socially. Technically possible, but in practice extremely difficult. People who choose not to post are being honest about their own vulnerabilities. They know that for them, the best strategy is complete abstinence, not because they're weak, but because they're strong enough to admit this is a battle they'd rather not fight. That self-awareness is a sophisticated form of wisdom. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman explains that our brains didn't evolve to handle the amount of social stimulation social media provides. We're biologically wired to live in small groups where we know each person intimately. Social media overwhelms our social nervous system, creating anxiety, stress, and a constant sense of inadequacy. People who step away are simply respecting the natural limits of human psychology. And there's more. There's a fundamental difference between happiness and pleasure. Pleasure is immediate, short-lived, superficial. Happiness is deep, enduring, built through consistent choices aligned with your values. Social media offers pleasure, that quick hit of dopamine when someone likes your post, but it rarely offers true happiness. People who don't post have chosen happiness over pleasure. Here we are, at the final moment of this journey, and now I'm going to reveal the most powerful truth of all, the one I've been hinting at since the very beginning. This is the revelation that can completely transform your relationship with social media, with external validation, and more importantly, with yourself. Get ready, because what I'm about to say challenges everything our society has taught us to believe. The deepest truth about people who don't post photos on social media is this: they've already found something most people spend their entire lives searching for and never find. They've found inner sufficiency. They don't need anything external to feel complete, valuable, worthy of existing. And that, my friend, is the holy grail of human psychology and Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius once wrote something that should be engraved in everyone's mind. Happiness doesn't depend on what you lack, but on what you do with what you have. People who constantly chase validation on social media are trapped in a perpetual state of scarcity. They always need more. More followers, more likes, more comments, more recognition. It's a bottomless pit of need that can never be filled because the source of fulfillment is outside them. But people who don't post have already closed that pit. They no longer need external fuel because they've found an endless source within themselves. And that source is genuine self-acceptance, not the performative, motivational quote version, but the real, deep, unshakable acceptance of who you are, with all your imperfections and limitations. Here's what no one tells you. You will never be perfect enough to satisfy the algorithm, never attractive enough, successful enough, interesting enough. Because the algorithm doesn't want you to be satisfied. It wants you to keep trying, keep posting, keep chasing, because that's how it profits. You are the product, not the customer. Your attention, your anxiety, your insecurity, everything is monetized. The people who stepped out of that system understood this brutal truth and refused to keep being exploited. They refused to turn their lives into content, their identities into brands, their existence into a product. And in that refusal, they reclaimed something precious, their full humanity, unedited, unfiltered, non-performative. Seneca taught that it's not the man who has little who is poor, but the one who desires more. Apply that wisdom to social media. How many followers are enough? How many likes satisfy? The answer is, it's never enough, because the pursuit of external validation is naturally insatiable. But the person who doesn't seek that validation is already rich, already enough, already whole. And here's the final twist, the irony you need to understand. People who don't post photos often have the richest, most authentic, most interesting lives, because they live to live, not to prove. They travel to experience, not to post. They cultivate deep friendships, not superficial connections. They build real accomplishments, not just the appearance of success. Viktor Frankl wrote that those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. People obsessed with social media have lost their why. They live for the how, the appearance, the performance. The people who rejected this superficial life have reconnected with their deeper purposes. And that connection with genuine meaning is what truly gives life its weight. Now, the question you're probably asking, what do I do with this information? I'll tell you exactly what to do. Try it. Just try it. Spend a month without posting anything on your social media. Don't delete your accounts if you don't want to. Just observe, without participating. Watch what happens to your peace of mind, your self-esteem, your time, your creativity. Epictetus taught a powerful exercise. At the end of each day, review your actions and ask yourself, did I do what I should have done? Did I act according to my values? Was I the best version of myself? These questions are infinitely more important than how many likes you received. People who don't post have already internalized this practice of self-evaluation based on internal standards, not external reactions. And let me be clear. I'm not telling you to delete all your social media tomorrow. I'm not preaching the rejection of technology. What I'm saying is that you need to question your relationship with these platforms. Do you control them, or do they control you? Do you use them, or are you being used by them? Does your happiness depend on them? If the answer to that last question is yes, then you have a serious problem to confront. People who chose digital invisibility aren't morally superior to anyone. They simply made a different choice, a choice that for them results in more peace, more authenticity, more freedom. And that choice is available to you too, anytime. You don't need anyone's permission to live your life more privately, more intentionally, more aligned with your deepest values. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Social media is an outside event. Likes, comments, approval, all of that is outside your control. But your choice to participate or not, to base your self-worth on it or not, to live authentically or performatively, that is entirely within your control. So here's my final challenge to you, the last revelation I promised, the person you need to impress, the only audience that truly matters, the only validation that can ever genuinely fulfill you, is not out there on social media. It's inside you. It's in the mirror every morning. It's in your conscience when you go to sleep. It's you. And until you earn the approval of that person, until you become someone you respect and admire, regardless of anyone else's opinion, you will never be truly free. The people who don't post photos have already learned this. They've already made peace with themselves. They've already found this inner freedom. And now you know their secret. The real question is, what will you do with this knowledge? If you've watched this far, thank you. You're part of a rare group of people who seek depth, who refuse to settle for superficiality, who genuinely want to understand human nature and live better. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Are you going to reduce your social media use? Have you noticed these patterns in your own life? Let's build a community of people committed to authenticity and real growth. And if this video really resonated with you, if it shifted something in the way you think, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell, leave a like, and more importantly, share this message with someone who needs to hear it. There are millions of people stuck in the vicious cycle of social media, suffering from anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and they need to know there's another way to live. Now on your screen, you'll see 2 more videos that perfectly complement what we discussed here. The first explores how the Stoics dealt with criticism and other people's opinions, essential knowledge for anyone trying to break free from the need for approval. The second dives into how to build genuine self-esteem based on virtue and character, not external validation. These videos will help you deepen your journey of personal transformation. Remember, your life doesn't need an audience to have value. You don't need likes to be worthy. You don't need followers to matter. You are already complete exactly as you are, and the sooner you internalize this truth, the sooner you'll begin living with the freedom and peace you've always deserved. See you in the next video.